From St. Cloud, Florida, this is the Phoenix Rising Radio Network.
Now, you don't sing, you can't dance, you don't tell jokes, and you've been doing this for 19 years. That's right.
Welcome to the Doc Show, Coast to Coast.
I've got the best jokes in the world, but nobody here gets them.
He's reading it and he got it wrong.
That says it all.
Although he won't call it Muslim terror, because those are his people.
Give Doc a call, 407-498-3193.
That dude that runs Canada's got balls. I wish they would adopt us.
Oh, I like him.
I don't know why his parents named him Kareem, but he's not Muslim. He actually listens to the show. He likes you. I questioned his sanity sometimes.
Oh, I like her. She's a cutie.
What do you get when you cross a highly outspoken individual with the power of radio?
If I may be so bold, and I don't like to ask this.
Guys, how much more do you need?
Well, you still get the highly outspoken Doc.
Would you rather be South Canada with a brave prime minister who flat out called it Muslim terror?
Often imitated, never quite duplicated.
Or would you rather be under the rule of jihadists?
Any precautions or modifications?
Which is slowly but surely going to happen.
This is the Doc Show, Coast to Coast, with Doc Holliday.
All right, man, we got right here in the studio a representative that wants to vote and be a Republican now, and his wife. People change. You know, Ronald Reagan was a Democrat.
I should say there is one huge difference between Jonathan and I, and that is that I do want to be a politician, and I always have. Even when I was a Republican, I wanted to be one.
My moral compass, doesn't allow me to be a politician.
Exactly.
Do either of you guys ever watch Designated Survivor?
Can't say I have it lately.
I don't watch TV.
I was.
You got to watch it.
It's a good show. It's no.
Oh no, that's the one. Yeah, it's
that's the one with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, it's who he played on. What was his?
24.
It's Jack Bauer as president. That's the joke I keep hearing. And I saw trailers, but Jonathan and I, we both have one thing in common, and that's that we do not watch television to any real degree. And I'll be quiet. And also, my internet access is not what it used to be, so I've lost the ability to pirate a lot of things.
He said pirate.
I did.
I'll let it go. No, but I
you
was.
can stream television.
I was.
I know.
Well,
I
that's
just
what
don't
he
want to
was.
pay for it.
Really
He was
cheap.
trying to do.
He's saying his internet
for
sucks
free.
too much to do
I
that.
pay for Netflix, and that gets me through because I'm a big old Trekkie. So.
There you go.
Well, you get Netflix or Hulu. You get what's on TV. You just get it a day late.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
so it's really not a big deal.
And I'm sure at some point I'll be seeing Jack Bauer as president.
But yeah,
He's nothing like Jack.
Oh, I know. I understood that. He's like the education secretary or something.
I was
think.
talking about it at work today, and because I have a coworker, he's African-American gentleman, and he said he's going to go to the polls this weekend. So I said, you going to go to the polls? And you'd have to know Mr. Neal to understand him. But he said, I'm going to go wear my Make America Great Again, my Vote for Hillary t-shirt, and then on the pants I'm going to put in Johnson and Weld 2016. He said, because I just don't get it. He's like, we need to do like Designated Survivor and just blow up the Capitol while they're all in it.
I just hope that.
And that's where to be honest, that's where the appeal for Trump comes. Is I feel a lot of people know that we need to drain the swamp in Washington. But let me get back to Doc, and sorry, we stole the show from you.
No, that's okay. I'm just real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Take a minute. You said that you favored the robots being put in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I want to hear
for
this
the $15 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and that would give people, a chance to. They would still have jobs. They just wouldn't have as much to do. Now, consider the fact that when those bots go in there,
Mm-hmm.
people lose jobs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so technically, there's there's not a guy in the back who's sitting there playing cards in case the bot goes down. It doesn't work like that. That used to be a human being making $8 an hour, and now it's a machine, and they're very much like ATM machines.
Mm-hmm. They are. I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, you put them in and blah blah blah. But each one of those represents somebody that's out of work.
Oh yeah.
All right, so now people in McDonald's losing jobs. Do you still feel the same way about those bots because they're taking human beings and throwing them out into the streets where they may or may not do the right thing? Yeah,
we have to. Well, that just comes down to because we're able to do it with robots. The demand for human labor is going down, and that's just technology. And we need to embrace that by coming up with a system. it's hard to say this, but the universal basic income, the idea that people should just have a base economic income, is hard to explain to most modern Americans, but they are trying this out in a lot of European countries. It's the idea that just because you're a human being or a citizen of a government, you get a portion, the living money to live. I don't think you should be allowed to save it. I don't think it should be enough to make you rich, but at a certain point, you will never have 0% unemployment. That's a pipe dream. It will never happen. And because capitalism is designed to make things easier, to make them better, to slowly improve the processes and make human beings a little less needed, so we don't have to, kill ourselves. If we're constantly going to have an economy based upon people working for money, then we're going to hit this hill, and we've been hitting it ever since the beginning of the century, to be quite honest.
All right, but we
rebuilt Europe, and that really helped us in the last 50 years or so, but not so much anymore.
If you're going to have a capitalist society, and let's face it, they're all capitalist society, because it's all about the money.
Yes, it is.
I don't care where you are.
And I think that's universal. I think it's worldwide.
It's all about the money. And I said one time, I can't believe God put me on the earth. So I had to fight for more paper than the next guy, and if I didn't get it, I had to go live in a dumpster. So the concept to me, I understand it, and that's the way it is, but it sure to hell makes life hard. But when you replace people with machines, there are people then that are turned out that
and that's
may
tragic.
only have the skills to do one or two things. The broadcast industry and Clear Channel Broadcasting itself is responsible for this whole thing. Thousands upon thousands of guys who did this live were replaced because they came up with technology that allowed one person
in Dallas to be all over the Southwest
to sit there and simply say call letters, and the machines would go ahead and put their voices together. And if you listen to Orlando radio after morning drive, and in some cases morning drive, they're not here. And that used to be a human being that could pull in 60, 70, 80 grand a year and be able to support a family. They were all fired.
Well, let me ask you this. Are the radio stations that are still pulling in high revenues, are they the talk stations? Or is it proven that the model of taking out, quite frankly, the DJs and the human beings from the people that the community knows, and not that guy in Dallas that's transmitting to El Paso, do those stations still, does 104.1, are they not the number one station in town?
No, they're not.
That's a shame.
They would sit on about, I would say, maybe 9th or 8th place.
I don't think I've ever listened to 104.1.
I almost was on that. I was, if you guys, the Hideout, it used to be on after the Phillips file.
Very familiar with it.
Oh yeah, I was J-Dubs and El Jefe. I was a very big fan before they got kicked off that
I'm
station.
just going to take 15 seconds here.
And they were replaced. They were replaced
by a Texas show,
by a show,
syndicated
Texas,
show,
and those guys ended up with no money. And this guy from Texas gets $5,000 to do the job of two people over a course of a year. So there's two people getting,
which is it's anti-corporation. It's anti your.
We agree on that part.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, back to the people in McDonald's and stuff. I believe there is a place for an 18-year-old, 17-year-old. I have kids in my school. 15-year-old works at Checkers. I think that's wonderful. I think you build experience. You're going to enter into the job market, and the only jobs left are going to be ones that, quite frankly, no minimum wage job is going to be given to somebody who is just entering the workforce. And you're going to have a problem of job experience for a while where somebody won't have any experience and won't be able to get it. You need to have that, you're going to learn social skills. You're going to learn responsibility. You're going to learn what it means to have a boss over you. And that's just something, I know we disagree, and I'm not going to get you to agree with it, but that's just my feeling on it, is that's important.
Unemployment and what you see Barack Obama say when he says we're down to 5.6% unemployment, that's a sham. It's not real.
I'd have to agree with you there to a certain extent. It's a real number, but it's not a real number. It's not the number I would report.
It's not even a real number.
It only counts the people who are actively looking for employment.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have enough people living off of the state that don't care anymore, and then those aren't counted either.
It's not a matter of not caring anymore. You got 26 weeks. Now, Obama originally, when everything was blowing up, said, I think we can go 99 weeks. And then he realized when he counted on his fingers, that's almost 2 years. So they knocked it back down to 26. So it's half a year to find a job. People say, oh, you can find a job in half a year. Quite frankly, in most businesses that require any sort of skill, no, you can't. So when you apply for unemployment, that goes into the percentage of people, and that's where they get the unemployment rate. On week 26, when you get that letter, and I got it, that says, well, that's it. You're no longer, you got your 26 weeks. You're then taken off the rolls, and it looks like you're working, but you're not.
You're not.
And that's where the politicians lie to us. Let's move on now. I want to get to two subjects I hope we can get to. Yeah, we should be able to actually get to most of these. We've got minimum wage so far, immigration, national security. Let's talk about, since we're talking about people that hold jobs, and I think some people hold jobs too long. I'm going to start with you. How about, and this is something that people complain about because there was a point maybe in the last 2 years where Congress had a favorable rating of only 9%, and people were sick and tired of the same guys that didn't have term limits over and over and over and over and over and over, and they were just coming back and coming back. And it's like in the Northeast, if your last name's Kennedy, you're going to get elected, even if you're not doing a good job. Lord knows Ted drank his way through, all of his terms. And I think when you have no term limits for people in the Senate and Congress, I think that could bring up more chances of corruption, more chances of laying back and not doing your job, and just figuring that, if they're only going to give Obama 8 years, which some people would say, well, that was 8 years too long. That just depends on your opinion. Then why can John McCain sit there for 40?
Good question. And I know Matthew's a very nice guy. He's probably going to hate me for saying this because he wants to be a career politician. I would go as far as to say, yes, government has gotten very corrupt. Yes, term limits are an issue. People are going to keep voting the same people. And just because of the voter base being predominantly uneducated, which we do need to work on, but at the moment, if they heard a name and somebody tells them that it's good, or that person stands up and says, I am your congressman, they have more of a platform. What is, what is serving in politics? Well, it's exactly that. It's serving your country. I've heard it said, and I can argue. Now, I don't necessarily say this is a big proponent of this, and I don't think it's ever going to happen, but what would be wrong with a system in where you only have 2 terms for anything? And I mean, if you serve 2 terms on a school board, or 1 term on the school board and 1 term in Congress, 4-year terms, you're done. That would be serving. That'd be successful people who have done well in their careers, serving in politics, rather than somebody saying, I'm going to go, what do you want to be when you grow up? A politician. I would like somebody who owns a private school to serve on the school board. Okay, somebody who's involved in education say, okay, I'm not big enough to be president. I'm going to use my 2 terms serving my community, my community on the school board. Have big business owners for like on the county level serve as county commissioners. Somebody like Trump or Ben Carson, who's successful enough to have be noted around the country, serve as president. This might not work in the situation we have because there's a political attitude where a lot of the people who I believe are most qualified to serve in politics won't do it. And instead you have these people who, quite frankly, aren't comfortable doing anything else. They have a specific set of skills, and that is, they want to serve in politics. That's why you have people running for school board as a stepping stone into politics rather than because they give a half a crap about what actually goes on in the school system.
Okay, but term limits. Let's go to Mr. Boggs over here. So, now you hear people say, that they're sick of these old people over and over in whether they're in the Congress or they're in the Senate or wherever they are positioned, where there are no term limits, and they come back and back and back and back, and they make the same old promises over and over again. And the people say that they want term limits. Why would it be bad to have Congress on 2 4-year terms?
If I'm refuting the idea of term limits, it's that it doesn't actually solve the problem. You don't tell somebody that they have no job security after 4 years and expect them to actually serve the people that are hiring them, because then they have a lot of opportunity in those jobs to get lobbyist support to find where their next job is going to be. And I guarantee you they'll be working on that next job.
All right. So you're including the president in that.
Absolutely. And I don't know what he's going to be doing after, but I know he's going to get paid for some nice speaking gigs. He's going to write his memoirs. And I'm hoping that after that we might get a little bit of some Jimmy Carter out of him since he's so young. But fingers crossed.
He's 55. He's in fantastic shape.
I would give him another term. So I really would.
Would you say then that in the second term, at some point in time, and actually it turned out to be the most crucial term of his presidency, where, let's face it, the terrorism is at an all-time high. The Christian beheadings overseas, the Mosul, where he said we weren't going to put boots on the ground, and yet there's 5,000 Americans fighting, and 4 now have died in that fighting. And the second term seems to be his most crucial. Yet, do you think he checked out halfway through?
No, I wouldn't say so. He's not the worst domestically, but I would say that his policy very much came across from the what I call the NSA policy, which has basically been going on since 1947 with Harry Truman, and really enlarged by every president since then. And that is that they actually are working for corporate profits internationally rather than what we, the American people, want. And I can say that is simply a product of how our electoral system rewards money more than it does actually being a good politician or somebody that actually answers to the people. If you wanted to attack what term limits are trying to attack, you have to go after the actual campaign finance. Otherwise, I'll tell you, as somebody who wants to be a politician, and wants to serve people for a long period of time, I don't want to get rich off of it. I just want a living that allows me to live, somewhat comfortably with a family if I have one. And as an elected official, we need to bring in the best and the brightest. So the pay wages, they need to be comparable to the private sector. First of all, a Florida representative makes $30,000 a year. There's no draw for real experts in fields to go into becoming a politician. It costs them money because wages are so high for experts these days.
I've known some local politicians. And I know what the mayor of St. Cloud is going to make.
Mm-hmm. About 12 to 13 a year.
Yeah, but he has other employment.
Correct.
I don't think that he could live off of $12,000 a year. I'll tell you right now, I could live off multiple years with just $12,000. I've done it.
You need to write a book because there's a lot of people that can. And
it takes living with other people, having roommates. Sam told that story. It's just you always have roommates. Go ahead. I'm
that
sorry.
might not work when you want to get married and have a family.
Oh, you're not kidding.
So you may want to rethink that, living off of $12,000 or $13,000 a year.
I'm hoping that she'll also be a politician. Maybe then we'll make enough money.
Make 30.
Now, you'll be on the couch most of the time. Jonathan, what did you want to say?
You said something very interesting. That's job security, and I mean, this is something we're going to have to agree to disagree on. Is that, again, I don't think that being in politics should be a job. You look at, like you mentioned, Florida representative. Mike LaRosa has done a fantastic job. You might disagree with his policy, but he is a policy pusher. I believe 100% he has the best interest of the people he represents when he goes to Tallahassee at heart. I mean, he won by 64%. His constituents are who he represents, and he is a very successful businessman. And you say, well, the government can't compete with the private sector. Well, he is successful in the private sector, and if that, in my opinion, qualifies him to be a state rep.
Yeah, that completely wrong. I would absolutely. I don't want the same people.
It's a service. It should not. I mean, this is just. I don't agree that.
You'll only have people that can afford to serving. I actually want a bum. If people want to vote for a bum,
all right, well then,
I want
put it
the
this
bum.
way. I am not going to run for politics in the current system. I make enough money. I could run for school board. I work at a school. Will I? Probably not. Why? Because I'm going to go up against some politician. If the issues mattered, and it was a matter of service, and a lot of people did it, and the stigma was you're going to go serve your country in the political theater. All right, I might do it. And to be honest, not to sound silly, but I might do a better job than somebody who doesn't even know how the education system works because I'm in the education field.
All right, so what I'm getting from both you guys is that if somebody were to know that this job is only going to last 8 years, if they do a fantastic job, and it has an opportunity to maybe only last 4, it's almost as if the politicians are living like regular citizens do, because, no matter what you do, there is no job security, and people get fired on a whim. And in the state of Florida, it is a right-to-work state. And let me tell you something.
You were saying those words.
That is the worst term for the way this place is. It's not a right-to-work state. Florida is a right-to-get fired state.
Well, I would say this. I enjoy it being a right-to-work state. I have had no issue getting jobs, and this is where it's interesting. I don't have the writings of a super qualified job seeker, but I will say that I have found a job in less than a week, probably 6 different times. And
you're a better man than me.
So the go-kart job, I didn't like what money I made there, but I found that job within a week.
No, but you look like a go-kart guy.
I wouldn't say that. But
you do have that look. I'm sorry.
You got the height, but you could get some speed because you probably don't weigh as much as I do.
I'm going to give you some perspective, though. When you graduate from college and you have a degree and you develop that career that you've worked so hard in your undergraduate and some people graduate studies, what happens is when you get to be my age and you've spent 10 to 15 years in a career, and it's a career that you've chosen and that you've wanted, and I have no regrets about my career choice. It's been lucrative and it's kept me sustained. But when you have a resume that is very specific, you will find that you will no longer be called for those go-kart jobs. No matter how much you want them, you will be told you are overqualified because you have established yourself. And I know that I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, but I've also been a part of that reality. And now it's a little bit easier because you're in school. So people say, "Oh, he's in school. He's going to study. He's available to do this, that, and the other thing," and that's good. But once you establish yourself, it can be. I'm not saying that it would never happen, but it can be somewhat of a challenge to get that job that you just need because you lost the other job because there was corporate downsizing, or the private or the public sector, you hadn't had a raise in 10 years. And trust me, that I know too, because I've worked in the public sector, and the salary I was making 7 years ago is the same salary that they offer that position now. So it's sad. It's sad, and that's why I'm back in the private sector, because
real quick back to term limits. Then to kind of wrap it up, and I'd like to get maybe 2 more in if that's okay with you, Doc. I just feel that if there are no term limits, then the job you're going to do as a politician might just be, let you refute this 15 seconds or whatever, might just be make sure I get reelected. Whereas if there's a fallback plan and you're okay that you might not get reelected and you'll use that second term for something else, then you're going to push legislation that you believe in and hold convictions for. And that's just my thought process, so you can understand.
May
hopefully.
Quickly go.
Very quickly, just on that specific point, I would say that having to get reelected in an actual democracy is actually a good check on that. That you want people to work to get reelected, because it should be the people that elect them. But unfortunately now it's who raises the most money. Who raises the most money wins the election, wins 95% of elections in this country. And I can say it doesn't work for progressive politicians like me. Mike Hartford was just kicked off the county commission by a corporate Democrat, who's somebody who took backing from Disney and Darden and the developers of this area, the people that are building us up with these cheap homes.
I don't like Darden, by the way. So that was a nice comment.
And that's because Mike Hartford did not play ball with the developers or Disney. And it shouldn't be right that Disney and Darden and the developers can take over our elections. We need to go after campaign finance. Is my point on that.
Real quick, then, what do you think about someone else's campaign, i.e. Alan Grayson, basically buying 2 seats on our county commission 2 years ago?
Well, I'll be quite honest. I was a part of that, and it wasn't buying it. He just simply what he did was he won
by 200 votes with probably 10 times the amount of volunteers.
Yeah, exactly. What he did was, and I was the person that was directing the ground campaign, and in that campaign, or I was one of the people doing it, we sent out literature, our canvassers. This is all Alan did. His canvassers, when they went to the 2nd or 4th precinct, they were also pushing for Viviana Janer or Cheryl Grebe to be on the county commission. So yeah, it was Alan Grayson's influence, but I was already going out to canvass for him 4 years before that. And all we did was spread the word on a Democratic line. We said, these are Democrats. This is or if you're a Democrat, please vote for them. And for the first time since 1988, the Osceola County Commission flipped Democrat 4-1.
About $200,000 worth of influence poured into it that it hadn't had before. And that's exactly what you just
mentioned. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate that he can get that much influence.
That, this big money put out Hartford, but this is exactly what you were a part of whenever like I said, it felt like the county commission was bought by a special interest, i.e. Planned Parenthood and the Grayson campaign.
Well, I would say that it was bought out by developers and Darden and Disney before that. So I would rather it be bought out by labor unions and people that actually have to work for some people rather than profits. And in the end, we need to change the entire campaign finance system. Human beings should not be able to donate. Corporations should not be able to give to any political campaign, and individuals should be bound to a certain amount, possibly 10% of the yearly of the poverty wages, 10% of that to any candidate you want, as many candidates as you want, but you can only buy so much influence per politician. Should be the rule. That's not the rule now. We have free money coming in from all over. You wouldn't believe the money that came against Mike went through 3 different PACs. That's not free speech. That's just corruption.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll be back with the last segment. 407-498-3193, 407-498-3193. You're listening to The Doc Show with 2 young dudes. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat. How do they see this all? And it already sounds less contentious than you got when you go to the top with a Hillary or a Trump. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just... things happen and blah, blah, blah. And there's no media making it sound worse than it actually is. This is like listening to 2 people talk about issues that they care about, and there's no spin on it from a TV foof or the newspaper who endorses a certain candidate, which, they've all endorsed Hillary, despite what Hillary is about to be accused of. 407-498-3193.